Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Gatto, co-CEO of CION Investments and your host for the Advisor Lab. We are really lucky today to be joined by the CEO and founder of Archive Intel, Larry Shumbres. Larry is a seasoned veteran in the wealth tech space, fintech space, and he's going to share a bunch of knowledge about what's important in this industry. Obviously, we're going to talk about his company, Archive Intel, and sort of his pathway to where he is today within the space as a leader, not only from the perspective of work product, but also a thought leader and an innovative person within the space. Larry, thank you for joining us today.
Mark, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. So, as I alluded to, you have a long history in fintech, wealth tech, and I'd like to just start out by learning more about that kind of your journey. What attracted you to that space? How did you get there?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey to say the least. I started my career out of college with IBM. Had a great career with them, but I always had a passion for finance. So I made a bet with my wife that if I could pass the Series 7, can I jump into finance and make that leap? And can we move to New York City? Unfortunately, she lost that bet and
For
we
her.
moved to New York City. And I worked for New York Life Investment Management. It went really well, but at the time it was an interesting time. It was in 2005 to 2008, and we saw a lot of changes in the markets. But at the same time, we saw like the BATS exchange come out, everything moving electronic. I had friends on the New York Stock Exchange that were specialists that were saying, "Hey, it went from one to two firms or companies to 30 overnight, and they felt like they were going to be extinct in the next few years." So I took my little knowledge of what I learned on Wall Street and decided to merge that back with tech and more specifically in fintech. And then fast forward, I worked for a few companies that were successful and exited e-money and investment. I took over a failing startup, Totem Risk, and turned that around and sold that. And during that time, I heard a lot of rumblings in the industry about old compliance legacy products that were just outdated, expensive, difficult to use. And based on a number of meetings and communications I had with compliance consultants and RAs and advisors around the difficulties and the issues that they have with compliance tools, I decided to build Archive Intel.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the I guess the mission of Archive is to make compliance archiving seamless and even a little more enjoyable, right? Like, I got a
Yeah.
little kick out of that because when you think about compliance, it's not necessarily the most fun thing or the first thing people want to talk about. But what is it that you saw within compliance that really caused you to say, "Hey, there's a need for me to focus on this particular area as opposed to some other area within the wealth space"?
Yeah, there were a few areas, like a few things that jumped out at me were just the ease of use, right? The UI, user interface, how difficult it was with some of the other products that were the old legacy products that were out there. And with modern technology today in UIs, it should be really simple and easy. Like, hey, I could click around and figure this out, not like what am I looking at on a screen? So that was like the first thing that jumped out at me. But the thing that really was like the pain point that I kept hearing, and there were a few. The first one was around text archiving. So a lot of clients were saying that they had to download another app, have another phone number, and then it was difficult to review that data from a compliance standpoint because it was coming over in an email format instead of a text format. They could only see one text at a time instead of the full conversation. And we saw the SEC fining almost every financial institution out there for not capturing and archiving text messages. So that was the first thing that we solved for was the ability for a client or advisor to use their own phone and their own phone number and also whitelist their client contacts, which means we're only capturing and archiving the text messages from their client contacts, not their personal
That
messages.
that's probably a game changer, right?
That was a big game changer. That
Because
kind of put us
I
out
know
there.
that we've gone through this. Obviously, I own a broker dealer. I own an asset manager that deals in registered products, and we have a very hefty compliance layer in our business. And that was one of the things that really was hard for me to swallow. Is all this different juggling between different numbers and different platforms. So I got to assume that that's what really kind of made you take off is able to do that. Kudos to you for that, for sure. But continue. Music to my
Thank
ears.
you.
Music to my
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah, like dating myself a little bit, but it felt like we were going back to the old days where you had like a flip phone and a BlackBerry. I'm
Hmm.
like, why are we carrying around two phones again in 2025 and 2026? This is kind of going backwards instead of forward.
Right.
Uh, I even had, it's interesting, I'll tell you a quick story. I was on a flight back to Atlanta a few weeks ago, and the gentleman sitting next to me had two phones. He kept going back and forth, and I just tapped him on the shoulder, said, "Hey, are you a financial advisor?" He said, "Yeah, I'm in the asset management space.
Right.
How did you know?"
Right.
I said, "Because you're using two phones."
Hmm.
So I gave him my card. Next thing you know, they're a client. But yeah, that was the first thing that we saw that there was a pain point in solve for. And the second thing was there was all these flag false positives that firms had to review. We had one financial broker dealer reach out to us and they said, "Hey, we have 2 million emails a month that are archived. Out of those 2 million, over 200,000 are flagged. They're like, we don't have time to go through this." So they're outsourcing it to another country for them to try to keep up and stay compliant. So that was like a huge thing that we heard across the whole industry, is like all these flag false positives for saying the word guaranteed instead of saying, "Hey, if I email you or text you, Mark, and I say, hey, I guarantee you the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl next year," right? It got flagged, right? It shouldn't get flagged for compliance review. If I say, "Hey, I guarantee you 100% return on your investments," yes, that should be flagged.
Right.
So with AI, we built in the ability to reduce those flag false positives by up to 99%. And we do that through contextual AI. So if you just say guarantee, it's not going to do anything. But if you have guarantee in a sentence, it'll pick up the whole phrase and understand the difference between guaranteeing the Giants winning the Super Bowl and you guaranteeing 100% return. So that was the second thing. And then the third thing was around just the random review process where they have to go through and review everything. So we added an AI agent where they could schedule that review specifically around like what channels they're utilizing and how often they want to run that review. The AI actually will review that for them during that time, complete the review, and if anything is found that's out of compliance, it moves it to an escalated folder. So it makes it really simple and easy, reducing all those manual tasks by up to 95%.
Hmm. So when you talk to advisors or you talk to platforms, what are they doing now? Are they working with some of the legacy brands in the space that are large and I'm sure service a lot of your customer base? Are they doing some other more manual process? Kind of what's the gamut of advisors and platforms, and how do they handle compliance currently? Archiving.
Currently, well, the good news is that there a lot are shifting over to Archive Intel to utilize our technology and reduce all the flag false positives. But today, we still see a lot of firms using what they call lexicons or keywords to
Mhm.
flag for those compliance terms and key phrases. But it's very manual. It's a tedious process, and hopefully firms will start to trust AI more and move over to products like ours, like Archive Intel. And then the second thing is, I just still see too many people walking around with two phones or having another phone number. Clients don't want to have to like archive or text through a different phone number, try to find their advisor. What's a different number that I need to text through? And then also like just more apps. There's more and more apps out there where clients are trying to communicate with their advisor or someone at the financial institution, and they're getting a response like, "Oh, please just email me this information, or I'll take this offline
Right.
and email you later." It's not a great client experience, right? So with Archive Intel and other more modern solutions out there, we could archive everything, right? It's not just email or text, it's LinkedIn messaging, it's Instagram messages or comments or posts. It's really any app out there. Let your employees utilize those tools and capture all that data, because at the end of the day, data is becoming king, and that's what drives AI is data. And what we're seeing, to elaborate on this even more, is larger firms are building out their own data lakes. And if we could take all that data and push it to your firm, you're just going to benefit from everything that we're capturing.
Yeah, I assume it's a hot topic among a lot of advisors. Obviously, the SEC is enforcing these things, and they weren't really on top of it in the past. So I got to imagine that's a big driver of your business, kind of what's happening on the regulatory side too.
It is. I mean, the previous administration was heavy on the fines, right? The new administration, we're not seeing a lot of fines, hardly any these days around the text archiving. But who knows who's going to be in office next, right?
Mhm.
Who's going to be the next SEC? What are they going to look for? And it's better to be safe than sorry. So it's like a really nice insurance policy to have. And also, you have to do it because it's part of the SEC and FINRA's record keeping rules and regulations, right?
Right, right. No,
So not
you got to think long term in that area. You can't let your guard down, so to speak, and then all of a sudden the atmosphere changes and you're caught, you're caught not prepared, right? You have to be prepared. So I think in terms of compliance, firms have to think long term. They can't think short term.
100%. And the thing is, I see more and more financial institutions being more proactive around these things instead of reactive in the past. We're getting calls to say, hey, can you archive Telegram or WeChat or TikTok or
Hmm.
Substack? Like we're getting requests all over the place to archive, client communications through other tools, even like Timeline within Black Diamond,
Hmm.
and other chat messaging apps, throughout the industry that are other financial technology tools that work really well, and
Is
they're
that
communicating
the
with
evolution
clients.
of archive intel, or is that stuff you have now, or that's kind of how you grow your footprint through being able to archive those platforms as well?
Yeah, 100% grow through archiving more and more. As we take a lot of feedback from our clients, and then if we see everyone asking for TikTok over Reddit, we're going to start with TikTok and then add Reddit next and Telegram. So we see a lot of crypto asset managers utilizing Telegram. So that's something that in a lot of large asset managers utilize that as well. So that is, one of those are basically the top three apps out there that we will be adding here in the next few
Mhm.
quarters.
Mhm.
And again, as we continue to grow, we hear more and more. And the one area that I think is like that silent, not silent killer, but that silent client communications that could go both ways with the SEC and client communication is around AI note takers.
Mhm.
So I believe that it could be like the new WhatsApp, right? If
Right.
there's a new administration where people will be like, hey, or the SEC or FINRA could be like, hey, you should have been archiving all this data in all the summaries and transcripts that you've communicated with your clients through these AI note takers. So we're starting to have conversations with some of the leading firms out there like Zox and Jump and a few others to start to archive that data as
Mhm.
well.
Great, great, great. So, just in practical terms, how do you sort of describe your product and how it kind of really makes the process more efficient? So, what is it that a compliance officer at a firm, at an RA, what is their day going to look like now that they have archive intel?
Yeah, at the end of the day, even with AI doing a lot of the work for them now, you still need a human in the loop. You can't just set it and forget it, right? You still have to go back and check on the data and make sure that AI did review it, 100 it is completed, and also to check the escalator folder to make sure that it didn't catch anything that's out of compliance. It will still have false positives because we can't capture everything, but it's gotten so much better where it's reducing so much of that manual process. It's giving back firms hours and hours where they could focus more on growing their client base, building the relationships with their clients, or on other compliance tasks that may be a little bit more important to them.
Great, great. That's critical, right? Although the advent of AI is here, right? Human interaction still, still necessary, still plays a vital role. On the topic of AI, I'm going to be at a conference in a couple weeks, Future Proof, in Miami. I don't know if you're familiar with Future Proof or you've done it, but really interesting event. I really love going every year. But AI is the theme, right? But people, I think, use the term AI very generally, right? And not everybody understands how it works and how companies are utilizing it to make better products. Can you talk a little bit about like what AI you're using and how it makes your product what it is?
Sure, yeah, yeah. So, Mark, we will be at Future
Okay.
Proof in Miami. I was there last year. I was on a compliance panel with another firm that we partner with, ACA Global,
Mhm.
who's quite well known in the industry.
Sure.
Great event, love being there. We'll also be at T3, and
We'll have to get together when we're down there.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to AI, it's you can't just plug and play with AI. There's hallucinations, there's AI biases that you could find over time. So we're always looking at any new version of an LLM that comes out because there's more data, it could increase accuracy, et cetera. So when we were utilizing Llama 3.0, it was working really well. Then 3.1 came out, we tested the data and accuracy there, wasn't as great as what we were already seeing with 3.0, so we waited. And then Llama 4 came out with Maverick. We tested that. We saw the accuracy go up by over 10 to 12%. So again, it's like you constantly have to be looking at the models and how they change because there's so much data, right, that is being added to these LLMs, and it just improves the accuracy through what you're currently using at the firm. And then you have to look at different models. There's always different models through Azure or Copilot or AWS with Bedrock, and we could add our own models. And then always improving the prompts and testing the data. So we have on the back end our AI data scientists who are constantly going in and testing to make sure that again we're not seeing any hallucinations or AI biases, but we're also getting better accuracy and better outcome for our clients when it comes to AI.
Right. A big theme. Obviously, that's what's making a lot of these innovations come to life. So it's exciting territory, and we're glad to see that you're taking advantage of that and helping advisors with their business and allowing them to really focus on what they need to do, and that's service their clients. So it's an important innovation that we're all happy. Smart people like you are taking advantage of. So let's just switch from business to something more personal, and we have a little bit in common in that we both played football. We both dabbled at our played a Division I football, and our teams play each other. Rutgers and
Right.
Pitt. You went to Pitt. I went to Rutgers for a short period. I transferred out because I wanted more playing time, but that experience has to be something that's really enabled you to kind of succeed in life. I certainly believe my experiences there, playing football and learning from those experiences have helped me in business. I assume you would say the same thing about
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's athletes. We even hire some great athletes at our company because it's like athletes, ex-military, ex-athletes. They have something that is unique, right? They have that dedication, that motivation that's instilled in them to be successful. But you're also that the one thing that I learned a lot is just the player coach role, right? What you learn from your coaches, what you learn and what they teach you, and then also how do you go and take that onto the field, and then be more of like that the player, but also coaching depending on your position with the other players around you, because it's such a team sport that you all have to succeed in football together. It's not just one or two people that are out there that are
Yeah.
successful. So there's so much that you can learn from sports and military and a few other areas that I haven't mentioned. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
well,
great experience. And
so much that's transferable. And what I love is that you played high level football. You're a very successful business person. You founded many companies. And I don't think that's celebrated enough in youth sports, right? I coach youth tackle football. My son plays, and everybody wants to bring like the ex NFL guy to the team and talk to them, and nobody thinks about, well, let me bring the guy who, what, he played Division I football. He was there. He was living the dream that you're thinking about today. But you know what? When it was all done, he was still very successful. And these are the guys that you should also emulate. So I want to applaud you on the fact that you've had so much success in your business, in your field. And thank you for bringing these innovations, not only Archive Intel, but the other businesses that you've started. And I want to thank you for being on the Advisor Lab, and I look forward to seeing you in Miami.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that, and kudos to you as well for being successful as well and playing for Rutgers. Is I'm sure in your experiences we'll have to have a beer or two and share tell some stories, right? Because they're always fun to hear different examples and stories from other athletes and also their successes after college, right? In sports. So thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And anyone that wants to find out more information about us, just go to archiveintel.com. Be happy to schedule a demo or just schedule a meeting to explain more around what we're doing and how we could help you save time and money with our all-in-one compliance archiving tool.
Wonderful, Larry. Thank you again. Wishing you much more success, and I'm actually looking forward to hearing more about your product. I think I'm gonna log in for a demo.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
Mark. Appreciate it.
This video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered or relied upon as investment advice. It may not be copied, quoted, or referenced without CION Investments' prior written consent. Do not rely upon any opinions, predictions, or forward-looking statements contained herein. The views expressed do not constitute an offer to sell or a solicitation to purchase securities, nor do they constitute the endorsement of a particular asset class or investment strategy. Neither CION Investments nor its affiliates and/or subsidiaries warrants its completeness or accuracy. Certain information contained in this video may constitute forward-looking statements that may be inherently unreliable, and actual events or results may differ materially from those reflected or contemplated herein. CION Investments expressly disclaims any obligation or undertaking to update or revise any information included herein. The views expressed by the guests or participants are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of CION Investments, LLC, or any of its subsidiaries, officers, or staff. Please be aware of the real risk of loss in following any investment strategy. No investment strategy or asset class referenced herein is intended to be construed as investment advice. You should make an independent, informed decision regarding any investments or strategies only after reviewing all relevant offering or disclosure documentation with your financial professional, and after considering your objectives, risk tolerance, and best interest before making any investment in any financial product. Registered personnel should review any business development initiatives addressed herein with their respective compliance and legal departments. Coverage of such topics should not be construed as compliance or legal advice. It is at the discretion of each respective firm if such practices are consistent with firm policies and procedures.